In Our Blood just premiered at Fantasia Festival, and this is one of those quiet indie-type films that you're gonna want to put on your list to check out. Filmmaker Emily Wyland teams up with cinematographer Danny to shoot an intimate documentary about reuniting with Emily's estranged mother after a decade apart. When her mother suddenly goes missing, possibly succumbing to the addictions that first tore her family apart, Emily and Danny must piece together increasingly sinister clues to find her before it's too late. So we've got Brittany O'Grady, who you may recognize from Season 1 of The White Lotus, Black Christmas, and The Consultant, and then E.J. Bonilla, who's been in projects like The Old Man and The Exorcist Believer. Now, they're our main protagonists in this found footage thriller. Just like I said in the synopsis, the pair, they're traveling to where the character Emily's mom lives in Las Cruces, New Mexico. They're estranged, but Emily wants to reconnect and then also document this for a film that she's working on. Danny's a friend that Emily hired to shoot the footage, and we watch as they're driving over desolate highways to their destination, which then isn't any less dreary and forsaken. Now, the relationship with Emily and Danny, it's not romantic, and sometimes it's tense, but each of their interactions ring of truth of people just placed into uncomfortable and then stressful situations with no bearing on what actually is going on. Because this is of the found footage variety, you might expect a fair amount of shaky cam. Luckily, we get very little of that because Danny likes to lock down his shots and then take the time to frame them cinematically. So that's what we get to see. There are moments when they are on the move, and so we do get some handheld bumpiness, but it is kept to a minimum, making the visuals easy to see and then comfortable on the eyes. Now, I love the discomfort that's present in just about every person who's on screen, whether they're cagey or just simply taken aback by having a camera shoved in their face. The reactions, they help to create this air of stress and then mistrust, and that then increases the intrigue as the mystery portion of this story takes over. This then becomes a search for a missing woman, Emily's mom, Sam. We watch all of the questioning of just sketchy people that Emily does while she's searching, but also never losing sight that she's also a documentarian. So this makes her a little cold or unsympathetic. But because we also get to see and then hear the desperation in her as she's working to find her mom, some of those negative feelings towards Emily, they can fade away. Now, the pacing for this, it is quick. It's not rushed in the way that we feel like we're missing huge chunks of story, but there are enough cuts in the filming to make the time just naturally progress faster. I mean, they don't capture every mile of driving around a town. Instead, we get the initial entry into the car, some dialogue as the characters are discussing their next steps, and then the very next image is them arriving at their destination. It's efficient and it works to maintain momentum, which then preserves the tension. Now, while the majority of the story is a thrilling mystery, the narrative does work in some horror elements as the film goes along. The visuals we get are nasty and gross, but very satisfying. The practical effects and the makeup, they're wonderful, and there is a certain aspect of one particular item that is just crafted so well, you can almost smell it. Now, in one scene, I am stumped at how they did it. I can't tell if it's all practical or a combo of practical effects and CGI. But because these are used so sparingly, they look brilliant and they're crazy convincing. I especially enjoyed how they augment the emotional energy of this particular scene. It's already a charged experience, and then this just quadruples the unease. Now, a trick or maybe even a gimmick of a lot of found footage movies that I actually enjoy is when a character will go into a location with their mic on, but no camera follows. And this has the ability to craft just a messed up theater of the mind visual for us because our imaginations then add imagery to what we hear, which can sometimes be way more frightening or intense than if we actually watch something play out. There's also this vulnerability that we as the audience are placed in because we hear things happening, but we are just completely unable to act. We're as frozen in the scene as the camera is. I think to one of my favorites like this from The Bay. It's a horror from 2012, and there's this one scene in particular where we see cop car footage as they go into this house. Now, the car doesn't move, and so then neither does the camera, but we get to hear all of the terrible screams and violent sounds over their radios. Now, In Our Eyes uses a similar technique in one scene, and although it's quick, that sequence, it is scary, disturbing, anxiety-ridden, and then very gross, and I was all there for it. Now, something very cool that the director did for this film is that he shot at this place called Camp Hope, which exists for houseless people to stay and then get services and reprieve from the elements. And then as a part of the story, Emily interviews the residents as she's searching for her mom. And they use the real residents of Camp Hope. And in the credits, we get to see their names alongside their faces. It was just a nice touch that included a bit of humanity in a film that didn't really focus on the best aspects of people. Now, for me, I think the largest area I disliked of the film came at the very end, like the last 5 seconds before the credits. The filmmakers make a choice that made what immediately came before feel cheap and less effective. It took away a small amount of mystique, and then it didn't provide any further answers or explanation. We'd already been given all we need in the form of info. I mean, this almost came across like they're hoping that this movie could become part of a franchise. I disagree. I think the movie is strong as an independent narrative, providing unique perspectives and concealing ideas until just the right moment for reveals. So many movies and shows just came to mind thanks to those final few seconds, borrowing very similar executions, which then makes this feel much less rare and special. Now, I do understand that was pretty vague and nondescript, but it's a spoiler if I went into any detail. When you see this, though, I am curious about how the ending plays out for you. Did it add to the narrative, or did it detract? Either way, though, all that came before is a suspenseful and gripping mystery that continues to build and add complexities as the minutes progress. So overall, In Our Blood is an uncommon presentation of a missing person story, using found footage and growing anxiety to create an atmosphere of regret and fearful anticipation. Brittany O'Grady and E.J. Bonilla firmly deliver characters who are both inquisitive and then freaked out by their discoveries. Tight storytelling and minimal extraneous distractions allow for an energetic tale that slowly morphs from thrilling to horrifying, expertly drawing audiences in with quiet and urgent arcs. Outside of a gimmicky final few seconds, the film uses what others may consider creative limitations thanks to sparse sets and a small cast to build a story that will stay with you after the credits have ended. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and some very brutal violence. I give In Our Blood 4.5 out of 5 couches. This is one of those surprises that are just so awesome to encounter. I hope this gets a theatrical release very soon so that you get to enjoy it too. Alright, so have you watched any good thrillers lately? Let me know what you've been watching in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.